In this video guide, we're going to create some cinematics in Unreal Engine using two different methods. So the first method will be to use take recorder, and is the automatic one. So it's going to be auto, and you just press record and you can record anything. The other one will be using the sequencer panel and using the classic keyframes. Now I'm using here a MetaHuman. It's called Pia, and I already created other video guides on how to import it, use it, animate it. And in this case, I'm just going to use a facial animation to show you a couple of examples, but you can use any actor, you can use anything. Now, right here, I am in the take recorder window, which we already used in another video. And if you want to record the MetaHuman, just add it in there, just like any other element. So if you want to animate something, you just go in the take recorder, add it to the source, press on the record button, and everything that object that actor will do will be just recorded automatically. So this is the first and sometimes the easiest way that you can create sequence, a cinematic sequence or any other animated sequence in Unreal Engine. So let's say that I want to animate something else. I add here something to the scene, which could be a camera, for example. And you can see I can move the camera around in there. And this is not animated yet, but if I press record, that's gonna animate whatever I'm gonna move inside the scene. Now make sure that in the take recorder you have the actor that you want to record, otherwise it won't be recorded into a sequence. So I want to turn off the MetaHuman right now. Just let's animate something really simple, which is the camera. And once the camera is animated, you can create like some really cinematic shots. So I press record, I move the camera around, just a slight movement. Be careful because sometimes it has a little delay before it starts recording, and then you press stop to stop the recording. So if I now go in the content drawer, this is where I find my cinematics takes from the take recorder. So we need to go in the content, cinematics folder, takes folder, and these are distributed by date. So I'm gonna go in the date where I created this one, and this is the level sequence that has been automatically generated when using the recorder, the take recorder. So that's the animation right there. So if I move this around, you can see the little movement of the camera. And yeah, I can do better than that, but this is a quick example. And you see now we have two actors. So this happens when you use take recorder. It's going to generate one static actor, which is the original one, and the other one is going to be the animated. So you can just turn off the other one or just delete it and leave the animated one if you want, or just keep the source, keep the original. So you can see it's animated in there in the background. And again, this is just a quick example, a quick show case of the take recorder, and you can adjust also the frame rate in the take recorder, and that's basically it. It's really simple. Now also here I am in cinematic mode. What I suggest is when you need to record animation, when you need to work with animation, since it's really heavy, you may don't want to use cinematic, so you can go in the settings, in the scalability settings, and set that to the low quality so that you can be quicker and you don't have like lags or delays, and everything should work better. You have a better performance working in the viewport. So yeah, we don't have hair in the actor, but that's fine. They're gonna be back when I am gonna change the scalability again. So I'm gonna close the take recorder window, and by the way, you find that into the Windows menu. And I'm also going to close this sequence right now that we created automatically with the take recorder. So I'm going to close this window. And this is the movie render queue. That's one you need to export, which we're going to see later. And the other way is we right click in the content drawer and we can go in the cinematics and create an empty level sequence. So that's another way, and that's the manual way. So it's not going to be automatically generated, but we're going to create one. And once it's created, just double click and it's going to open up the sequencer window automatically. So once we are in the sequencer window, we can start to add tracks. And so that's the other way we can animate. Adding here what we want to animate. So we can go to the add to the actor to sequencer, and we can add actors in there, and we can start to animate those using the keyframes, the standard or more classic way we used to do that in any animation software. So I already have a sequence that I prepared using a audio to phase from Omniverse, and also to create the facial animation. And this is also explained in another video guide. So I created more video guides on how we can animate using vocals, using audios. And just gonna get rid of everything here. I'm just gonna leave the animated face of the character, and the scalability here is low, so I'm gonna keep it as it is for now. And that's also the cinematic viewport, by the way, that I usually use when I do cinematics, because I have the play buttons. I can play forward, I can play back, and I can play frame by frame. I have a whole set of tools in the player there. I can also record things, so it's really handy when you're working with cinematics. And you can also change here the scalability again if you want to see the full quality. Once you're ready and you're finished to animate things, you can go back and then export in the maximum quality. So right now in the scene we have only the metahuman, the light source, and a player start, which I don't really need because I'm not actually creating a playable level. And down here we have properties, so we can use the light source. Let's see how we can animate this light. So that's a directional light, so we can change only the rotation to change the effect. We don't need the location or the scale because that's for other lights, like the position lights. So I'm gonna go to track, add, so the little plus button, and go in the, well, we can go all the way up, and you should find already the actor being selected there. So you can just click there or just search it with the search bar, and there you go. So now we added this together with the MetaHuman animation. We added also the light track. So with this, I can start to work with parameters like the intensity and the light color for now. Then we can add more. So I'm gonna press the little circle button, and that's gonna create a keyframe right there. So we need at least 2 keyframes, and we need something changing. So right now, nothing is really changing. I just changed the light position a little bit, but now we can move also with the little arrows from one keyframe to the other, and nothing is happening there. So we need to change something. So you need to change the intensity value. You can do it also here in the parameters panel, and you can click also here with a little keyframe button to add the keyframe. So you can see now it's at 0. Now we will also change the rotation again, but now is not available. I'm gonna show you why. But the intensity is there. So you can see it's going from 0 to a certain level of intensity. And if I move forward again, I can click here and place another keyframe, and then go all the way to the end and just set to 0 again. So the light will turn on and off basically, and like a dimming animation. Now the speed of the animation is based on distance between the keyframes. So if you want a quicker animation, you need to make the keyframes closer. And if you want like a slower animation, you need to uh, enlarge the space between the 2 keyframes that are determining the animation. So you can see now the effect is right there. Now what about the transformations? You can see we can change in there, but how do we animate the other parameters? Well, for the parameters to be animated, we need a keyframe in there, or we need to place it in here. So one way or the other. So right now we don't have it. So we select the light source, we click in there, and we have some transform right here. So you can use the light source, you can use the light component, you can add a transform, and we're gonna go in the rotation. So this is not really the rotation of the actual light source, but more of the light component, I guess. But well, basically you need to reach the parameter you want by adding it, and then you can start changing the parameters and setting up different keyframes, and that's going to generate different effects. So right now I just rotated a little bit the light, the directional light, and I have this, changing of direction, which is going to be animated. So if you click this and drag it all the way down, is going to make this really slow, and so it's going to be a slow change of direction for the directional light. And I can add more. I can add more transforms. I can add other tracks like audio tracks, and other stuff that will be really interesting for cinematics. Otherwise, you can add the audio in a second time using Premiere Pro or After Effects or Natron or another video editing tool. Now let's go back to the outliner. I'm gonna get rid of the player style because we don't really need that. So anything here is animated. We have the MetaHuman, it's animated. We have the light source, it's animated. Now let's add also a camera. We can add it again from here, like we just did before using the other example. Here you can also add it from the sequencer, clicking on this little button here, which is a little camera icon, and that's gonna do two things. It's gonna add the camera, and it's going to create the view framing the object that you are working with. So you can see it's really out of focus, and that's because of the depth of field effect and the aperture of the camera. But we're going to fix everything. Now, first of all, if you go in the view here, that's the you can see we are in the actual camera. You can also switch from default again to cinematic if you want. This is the default view of the editor. This is the cinematic view, and in here we have also the camera. So from here you switch everything. So if you want to get in or out the camera, if you want to get in or out the cinematic view, you can click this little button to toggle the camera. So if you want to use it, and you can also eject if you want to exit the camera, so you can move free into the 3D view. You can still see the camera in there, the camera shot. So anytime you can go back in, and once you're in, you can also move the camera. So now we are piloting the camera. So this is a pilot actor mode. So if you change the view, is also going to affect the position of the camera. So you can see here it changed the shot. So now this is the actual frame, which is better than before. Before it was a little bit out of frame. So we kind of reframe this, and now it's better than before. So you can edit the camera using the pilot. You can use also down here the various parameters. So you have aperture, focal length, focus, defocus, transformation already. You don't need to add that, it's already in there. So let's address the defocus problem. We can address that just by using the current aperture. So when it's a low value, it's going to have a lot of in focus, out of focus um, setting. And also you can adjust the focus, but right now I just want to use the aperture. So if you increase the value of the aperture, you're going to have less defocus effect. So everything will be more in focus. Not too much, but we can still increase that a little bit more. Or you can just change the manual focus distance. But if I put a really high value to this, and also we can adjust the focal length. Now, the focal length, if it's a high value, you can have a telescopic view, so really close up in this case. And if you make this like 30 or 50, you're gonna have like the standard focal length. So you can see it's more like panoramic. It's gonna get more things into the frame, basically. The telescopic is used for, objects that are pretty distant. And now let's put like a bigger aperture. So everything will affect the focus, especially the focus here. So if you can adjust also the focus there, but let's just keep it as it is. So I'm gonna go here and want to add a focus and defocus, or actually defocus and focus effect. So you can see it goes from defocus and then goes into focus, which is a really nice effect, I think. And then I'm going to insert another keyframe here, and then I'm going to change everything here at the end. So I'm going to make, again, I'm going to use a telescopic, like 100 lens, a 100 millimeter lens, and then I'm going to put a really low aperture value, which means the shutter will be really open and it's going to create a really defocus effect like this. So it creates like a transition in a way, because we're going to fade into the black also thanks to the light, and it looks really realistic when you start to play with lights and depth of field, other realistic stuff from camera. Then you get really realistic effect. We can also move the camera a little bit. Now we have the transform nodes directly in here, so I can still use the transformation nodes in the parameters to move the location around of the camera. So I'm using now the location, so you can see you can move around, you can do some pan, some cinematic shots. You can also rotate it. It's just gonna lose it a little bit if you rotate it, and there you go. So try not to lose the focus of your scene, which is in my case the character. And there you go. So now we have a slight movement of the camera, which also makes it a little bit more realistic. Now another thing you can do, if you have the pilot actor activated, and if you move around and then just place a keyframe, it's going to record that movement. So that's another important thing when you're using pilot actor mode, is to know that you can record that movement. So now that we finished, we can either save, close, or we can just export. We can render the movie. If you're using legacy, you can render the movie. So you can set up this as a video sequence or as a video, or as an image sequence. You can set up the frame rate, you can set up the resolution and all these parameters and just export. Otherwise, if you click on the three dots, you can go to the most recent movie render queue, where you can add more queues and you can render more files, and especially you can render a sequence of images that then you need to mount together. You need to do some montage, some editing using some video editing software. So these are the two options. If you want to render a movie real quick, you can use the legacy movie rendering. Otherwise, you can just render the image sequence, which will be less compressed, and then you can change the quality and the compression later in After Effects, Premiere Pro, Netron, or any other software that will be able to handle image sequences. So I'm gonna go for a video right now. You click on Capture Movie. Once you're finished, you can navigate into the folder. When you store, you can select the directory, by the way, for any scenario, and that's the final video. So if I double click, that's gonna be the final video. Maybe it's too heavy and I need to compress a little bit more, or maybe there is a problem in the animation. That's not the one that we just created. It's another one that it created before, but the logic it's the same. So that's how you do this cinematics in Unreal Engine. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to support us, thank us, please join the channel as a supporter, or just subscribe, stay updated, check the other video courses and video guides. See you in the next video.